Hello everyone, Kim here with Abundant Life Tarot. Welcome to my channel, and I'm excited because I am called to do a video response. Every blue moon I get called to do one, and today's the day. And this one is the Tarot Anti-Bucket List. The other night I was watching Julie's Tarot Anti-Bucket List video, and she was responding to an original video response on her channel at Peekaboo Rose. And so what I'll do is I'll link all the video responses that I'm aware of, including hers, in the description box so you can check them out. Please be sure to check out the channels that featured this because it's quite interesting. I still have a few more to watch, but yeah, I'm curious to hear what's on your list. Because this is actually quite interesting. It's quite interesting to hear what people really think. All right, let's get started. Okay, so I think it's important to highlight my deck collection here, okay? So you can get an understanding of how many decks and things I have in my collection. All right, I have a few over by my reading table, and I'll just take you around so you can see that. Sorry for the odd. There's some there on the reading table, there, and there's a little spot there. So, yeah. Number one, I'm not a witch. I don't practice witchcraft per se. So I am not called to get witchy decks. I am a cartomancer. I do practice certain forms of what would be deemed as hoodoo, but I'm not a witch. So when I see witchy decks, whether they're tarot or oracle, they don't necessarily inspire me to get them, nor do I really watch videos that are like, oh yeah, this is a very witchy deck. It's just, they really do nothing for me. Number two, and this one might be a little controversial. I need balance in my decks, especially my tarot decks. Oracle decks, not so much. And what I mean by balance is I need male and female energies, or male and female depictions. And, you know, some people may take issue with that. You know, some people are completely okay with having an all-female deck or all-male deck. But for my tarot decks especially, I need the balance of those two energies. Like, for example, I got the Modern Witch deck. I liked it for the most part, but because it just felt all one type of energy, it just didn't work well for me in my readings. So, number three, I don't need all the decks. There was a time I was in the waxing moon phase of my deck collecting where I was acquiring a lot of decks. And over time, I entered the full moon and sometimes waning moon phase of my collecting. And that's where I'm at now. I don't desire or aim to have thousands of decks. It is not something, I mean, you saw the decks that I have, but that feels right to me. And yeah, I don't desire to have all the decks. And let me make sure I've hit all the points. Oh, and this is very important. I'm now very, very intentional about the decks that come into my collection. They have to serve a specific purpose in my reading practice. I am a professional reader, so oftentimes I'm looking for decks that can work well for client readings. So every blue moon, I might get a deck that is just for me. And even with those purchases, though, that's still very intentional. Number four, I'm looking, if you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm looking down here. I'm not called to learn every divinatory tool or practice. just not. I'm called to use the ones that I use. So I use cards, clearly. I'm a cartomancer. I use my divinatory dice. And what else? I'm all about the mind, meditation. That's more of where I'm at in terms of divinatory practices. And I do also scry. I have a crystal ball on my table, and I actually use this, my gold sheen obsidian, for scrying. I'm not really into runes at this time, and I'm not sure if I ever will really get into them. The other things I'm not really into is charm casting. And when I was a kid, I actually was interested in palmistry, but even now that's kind of gone out the window. There was a lady who reached out to me out here. She found my website, and she was like, "Oh, do you read palms?" I'm like, "No, I'm just a cartomancer." And it felt really good to just say that. Like, this is what I do. This is what I love. This is my passion. So, could that change? Could I open up to other divinatory tools in the future? Sure. But right now, and it has been for a while, at least for the last 5 or 6 years, I'm just not called to use anything but the tools that you all see me use all the time. So the Celtic cross, I know some people sing the praises of it. They love it. When I first started getting into tarot, I used the Celtic cross a lot, but it doesn't work for me now. I like more targeted type of spreads. I am more question-based to build a spread from there. So if the querent has a specific area of focus that they want to work on, or they have specific questions, I will build them their own unique spreads from that. And for myself personally, I don't really have the patience to do these long, elaborate spreads. I think it's a great learning tool, and I think for those who are called to use those big spreads, have at it. For me, I like anywhere, no more than probably 6 questions for my own personal readings. My sweet spot is like 3 to 4 cards, like 3 to 4 tarot cards. But yeah, when people start talking about, oh, here's a new way to use the Celtic cross spread, it's like, how like when you're in class and then the instructor or teacher brings up some new topic we're about to discuss, and your eyes kind of gloss over and you're like, and you just kind of tune out. That's what happens for me. So yeah, I don't know if I'll ever be like running back to any of those big drawn out spreads. 6. So, I am a big proponent of being very intentional about the decks that you add to your collection. In Western society, many of us can engage in overconsumption. And so I always want to provide support for those who recognize that in themselves, and to give them tools on how to embrace the collection that they have, and then going forward to be very intentional. And so a lot of times people think that I am like anti-buying decks or growing your collection. That is not the case. So I need to make sure y'all understand that. And with that being said, number 6 is I don't plan to sell all my decks. I'm sitting at about probably 165, 170 decks in total. And I don't plan on selling them. Occasionally I give them away. But yeah, I don't, and I occasionally, if I go to the States, I might sell some while I'm there. I may even, next year, I'm planning on having some tarot meetups in where I live now, and maybe gifting decks out here to folks. But I don't have this big push to sell or give away tons of my decks, contrary to popular belief. So I used to be driven by FOMO, but fear of missing out, but now not so much. So number 7 is near and dear to me. because this is about representing the growth of me as a person, as a deck collector, and as ultimately a reader, So I have no need or desire to be the first one anymore to back a deck, get a deck, have it in my collection. There used to be this need of having the decks when they first come out, but now not so much. There's a few practical reasons for that. One being that oftentimes the later editions of certain decks end up being better than the first. And from a collector standpoint, yes, it is nice to have the first edition, even when there's like little quirks like misspelled words or missing pages in the guidebook or 2 cards of the same, or little quirky stuff. But it's just not a thing for me anymore, and I don't think it ever will be again. It has to do with my spirituality. So my grandmother practiced what would be known as hoodoo, but she didn't really call it that. And it's interesting to me that it's like in Mississippi, they just like the folks where I'm from, my ancestors, where I come from, they didn't really call it that, nor did they really announce it. I mean, there's a variety of reasons why they didn't just go around sharing what they did or what they were doing, but I'm going to follow suit. You're not going to see a lot on my channel about my spirituality. Some things are just for me. Some things are meant to be kept only for my eyes, only for what I'm doing. Some people have channels and they freely share that information, and I love that. I think that's wonderful. But certain things like I'm finding about myself, like for example, where I live, my spirituality, that's just for me. So in terms of a anti-tarot list, I have shared with you all that I use the Hoodoo Tarot quite a bit in my practice, my spiritual practice, but that's probably the extent of what I'm willing to share. So I hope that doesn't bother you all. I hope you understand that. It's just, there's some things that just have to be for me. This may not be a secret to those of you who have been following my channel for a while, but I have no desire to fall in love or even really embrace Thoth. Okay. Actually, I have a strong revulsion to Aleister Crowley. And, oftentimes you can detach the creative, product from the creator. Of course you can do that. For some reason with him and that deck, I can't. And the other thing about Thoth is, to me, there can be such thing as too much symbolism. There, I said it. Do I have a few Thoth-based decks in my deck collection? Of course I do. But that's because it's new creators, reinventing the Thoth in their, interpretations. So, yeah, I do have some Thoth-based decks in my collection. But for me, in terms of symbolism, sometimes less is more. And that's just where I'm at. And I've been there in that space for a while now. So yeah, I hope I don't offend anyone with that, but that's just how I feel about Thoth. Really read this because I got wordy on number 10. So I wrote, and this is kind of similar to number 9. I do not like heavily themed or heavily symbolized decks where it literally takes years to study. Listen, I'm 42 years old, and I only have so much time on this earth, and I have so many decks. I'm not interested in learning a whole brand new system, and a whole brand new system of symbols at that, before I can even just crack open and start to use the deck. Many folks, they love that. They love the learning aspects before they even dive into working with the deck. But here's the thing. I'm a professional reader, and most of my reading time is devoted to reading for others. Not so much reading for myself, reading for others. that's also part of my spirituality, is the gift of reading for others who are going through something and then being able to help them. It's my act of service, and it is my part of my spirituality. So if I'm constantly in study mode of a deck, it's not conducive to my lifestyle, my work, any of it. And I just don't have the attention span anymore for it. So do I study and read and learn about tarot? All the time. My tablet is filled with books on tarot, different, interpretations of the meanings, reverse meanings, different ways to work with decks. I've traveled with a small collection of my favorite tarot books, guidebooks and things. And yeah, I just don't feel called to just have like this intricately designed deck. I want to be able to look at the imagery for a tarot deck especially, and pick up on some symbols and symbolism there and move on. I mean, again, I know that too might be controversial. So yeah, and even decks that I read for myself are not that overcomplicated. There's one deck, the Dreams of Gaia Tarot is its own little system, but when that came into my collection years ago, I had the patience and the time, and I was studying tarot and studying reading oracle, and I was in a space of really, really just learning. Now, not so much. So yeah, that's number 10. I should have told y'all to get a good beverage because I didn't realize how long this was going to be, but apparently I have a lot on my chest. Number 11. I do not need to have an entire collection of only indie decks. I actually appreciate and love the healthy mix of indie and mass market that I have in my collection. And my collection is unique, it's deep, it's fun, and it's inspiring for me. And I have some amazing mass market decks that really speak to me. And I know there's some folks who, for good reason, only want indie decks because they're supporting the small, creators, the ones who are, not backed by a big publisher. There's something beautiful about just being really connected to the creator, especially if you're backing them on Kickstarter and being kind of a part of that whole process. I get it. I do have quite a bit of indie decks in my collection, but that's not the only way I get decks. People gift me decks. I go on Etsy. I go on Make Playing Cards. There's many different ways I procure decks. So I have a very healthy mix, and I love that, and I'm proud of that in my collection. And get this, sometimes mass market, those decks end up going out of print. So yeah. For example, I have this one, the Uncommon Tarot, and it's got this little guidebook. It's mass market, and I want to show you all some of the cards. Like, to me, it feels very like what you would get with an independently produced deck. This is the Hermit. Let me see, I'm going to show you. Here's the Devil. It's borderless, it's gilded, and the gilding has held up. Not really a fan of that blue back, but it works, it's fine. Here's the Six of Coins. I love the Tower. So this is a mass market deck. Let me see if there's anything else I want to show you. Here's Alchemist, which is traditionally the Temperance card. Here's Awakening, which is traditionally the Judgment. And here is Priestess, which is High Priestess. And I just really love the whole mood of this deck. And I love the price point of this deck since it was mass market. And yeah, so you can have, and the Herb Crafters, which, by the way, we're doing a mini tarot study in the Abundant Life Tarot group on Facebook right now if you're watching this video and getting into it. But this deck is US Games. This one is, what is this one? Wiser Books. This is Wiser Books. But this is US Games, you know, and I love the guidebook. I think it's quite amazing. Yeah, so there's that. That is number 11? Yes, number 11. And it feels so liberating just to say this. But number 12, I don't desire to seek out animal tarot decks, animal themed or animal based tarot decks. Oracle decks is different for me. The reason being is Oracle decks, you can, I can work with them because typically the Oracle decks I'm drawn to that are animal based or animal themed, they will include keywords. Let's be frank here. Like, I am not some deep animal lover. I appreciate them. I think they're very much, you know, you need to protect the animal kingdom. We don't want them just going extinct at, you know, what we're doing as humans to our, you know, animal friends. But am I knowing all the animal, you know, energies? No. That's why I think with Oracle, it works a bit better for me. With Tarot, not so much. So yeah, I just had to go ahead and admit that to myself, that animal-based tarot decks are just a no. It's just a no. And I don't think that's gonna change. I could be wrong. You all might have a great recommendation for me. I'll keep an open mind. How about that? I'll keep an open mind. Pretty short and sweet. So I don't desire to get cutesy type of tarot decks. I may tolerate it for Oracle decks, but certainly not for tarot decks. I don't know why. Like, it just is what it is for me. Cutesy decks, I love seeing other people work with them, and I think they're great. And there's been a couple of cutesy decks that I've seen that my friend Andy has shown me, and I'm like, okay, I could see me working with that. But it's not even totally cutesy. There's like some little element of like irony to them. So, you know, I just, as a rule, I'm not really into that. I don't know why. It's just a matter of taste. We are number 14, the final one. And it kind of just sums up everything for me as a tarot collector. So I do not feel the need to back or buy decks that are hot or at the tops of many collectors' wish lists anymore, or, you know, the most sought after, latest, greatest decks. I've been there, done that. And it's very liberating to, I think that ties to the one where I mentioned earlier about FOMO, fear of missing out. But this is something different, because sometimes there's decks that there's no risk of it ever going out of print anytime soon. And I still don't feel called to get them. I just don't. I now desire decks that are unique and speak to me. And I'll give you an example. So Tina from the Queen of Wands made the Naturescapes Tarot. And I love this because this is just gorgeous. Look at this King of Pentacles. Here's the backs. And it's on make playing cards. I spent a lot of time perusing make playing cards, to be honest with you. I like the cardstock. I like how they shuffle. Here's the full. This looks like back home for me in Northern California. And yeah, I just don't necessarily feel like getting what's hot. I mentioned to you about the Uncommon Tarot, and also there's decks that are quite popular that I use, like the Lightseers Tarot in my client readings. But most of the time I am perusing make playing cards for decks to work with. Isn't that gorgeous? And my latest decks that I've been re-loving all over again, it is an indie deck. I'll show you in a moment. Here's Strength. So beautiful. So beautiful. I typically use this deck for readings for myself. Occasionally I might pull it out for client readings. The other one that I've been loving on, when I first got it back, I think in 2019, according to the little card that came with it, this is the Slow Tarot. I used it quite a bit in client readings. So every fall, I would use this deck, and we're in fall, so I'm using it. And now I'm using it way more than any other deck in my client readings, which is actually quite surprising. But not really, because I really liked it when I got it. I knew I would back in the day when I backed it. So that's what I'm talking about, my little eclectic mix. Oh, look, I'm going to show you this. Look at the Ace of Pentacles. This is from the Naturescapes. So I love my eclectic collection. I do. And I want to hear from you all. What do you think? Please consider doing this video response. I would love to hear from you. Let me know in the comment section if you did this video response, or just simply, if it's easier for you, just leave a comment about some things that are on your tarot anti-bucket list. And yeah, and let me know your thoughts on what was on mine. I'm curious to hear what you all have to say. All right, you all, that's it for now. Thank you for hanging in there with me. Much love. Oh, you know I gotta do this, y'all. Please don't forget to hit the like button if you like content like this. This is the easiest way to let me know that you want more content specifically like this. And also, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe. And I also should mention to check your notification bells, because that's how you'll know, I guess, if you click the little notification and set it to all, I guess. I don't know. Let me be honest. Let me be real. I never remember to click the notification bell as a video consumer. I just trust that I'm gonna see the videos I'm called to watch. And I'm subscribed to almost 400 channels. So I don't know. But I do know that sometimes people say they didn't even know that my content was around, so I'm assuming it must have something to do with the little bell. So I had to say that. But anyways, thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate all the love and support you show my way, and I send it right back to you. Bye for now.